This is pretty big for a lot of people. I think it really actually helps my clients understand why these things happen in their lives. And, I guess, have you noticed cycles to things and how things play out?
Oh yeah, well I'm struggling with substance abuse issues. I've been to so many treatment centers and I just can't get it together. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that this kind of gives me a direction to focus on because I'm struggling. My daughter committed suicide recently, and I can't.
Seriously?
Yeah, I just can't get it together. So I've had a lot of
Oh
suicidal
my
ideation
goodness.
myself, and it's just been difficult. Been a difficult road.
I could only imagine.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that. It's rough. I deal with brain patterns all day long, and I understand, maybe in a different way why people do the things they do. And it gives me a lot of empathy because it's not like you want to turn to substance abuse, right? You don't want these things to happen.
Right.
But there's something going on that causes us to eventually self-sabotage. And why? If the brain had our best interest at heart, it would not allow that to happen.
Correct.
But that alone should show you that there's something else driving this behavior.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into this and, we're going to talk through it. I'll email it to you afterwards, and then we can just kind of go from there.
Yes, sir.
So Break Method, it's really a data analytic approach to mental health. We're not here to talk about your problems. We're here to fix them, right? It doesn't matter what I think is going to help you because who am I? We need to look at the data, right? That's why my clients have tried everything. Therapy, EMDR, tapping, ketamine, and they don't get the results they're looking for.
Right.
With us, we've had 20,000 clients at this point, and we focus on early childhood because this is when these are all developed, right? So we think of your childhood. What do we know there? We know that, it was really hectic. You became a people pleaser, right? You desired to please your mom and dad, even though, things weren't that stable. It still showed us that you would have trusted them, right? Because you wanted to please them. And it also shows that you had comparison there with how your siblings were being treated. So what does that mean at an early age when you're constantly comparing yourself and feeling less than of? It's a constant rejection. It's a constant, I'm not enough, right? So even though you can think, okay, I don't care about that. I moved on from that. We're going to crush life. Your brain's addicted to getting you rejected. It needs to get you back to that feeling you were as a child because that's safety. Now you may ask, why is that safe? It's not safe. Well, the brain doesn't look at safety as always making the best decisions or having the best thoughts or, pushing forward no matter what. It looks at safety as something that's predictable, familiar, what is known, right? If you go to a casino and your friend's the dealer and he's rigged the table, you'll bet more. Why? Because you know the outcome. It's a safe bet. So same with your brain. It'll constantly want you to get to these places where you turn to substance abuse, right? You struggle with motivation, shame, guilt, rejection, because that's safe. Now we have to rewire that. That's the only way through this, right? All other things don't get deep enough and don't actually address the problem. So we have your pattern as what we would call a rejection control to receive love and be safe. So think of it as the glasses you're wearing, they actually have a red tint, and the red tint is rejection. So your brain is constantly looking for that. And it's not looking for it in a way as like trying to be so front facing. It's going to pretend like it's protecting you from rejection, but eventually it gets you there, right? That's why you'll get with attachment. Sometimes you'll fixate on something or go all in relationships and get consumed and look for feedback and validation, and it's a setup. And then it's the oscillation of like a betrayal or you avoid, right? And then we look at communication. You keep things in until it builds up and then eventually comes out, anger, right? Instead of maybe communicating something earlier that could have stopped that. All these things we do, it feels like it's us. But when we start to understand the systems of language going on in your head, we can change it, right? Because when you get to a place that you abuse a substance, and we talk right now, and you say, I don't want to do that anymore. Well, then why don't you just stop it?
Right, it's not that simple, yeah.
It's not that simple, right? It's not just like, I'm not going to do it. You might think I'm not going to do it this time, but then it happens again. It means that when you get to that place, all these other things have happened in your life that allowed you to get to a place where you're like, I got to do something. I got to self-medicate, right? I got to who cares? What's the point of life anyways? Might as well do this, right? It's justified the behavior. Now we can talk logically and think, okay, that's not good, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to happen. then unless we can stop all these things, all these thoughts you're having that lead up to this, right? And it's not that easy to just think about that because the brain is addicted to getting you here, right? So as you know, being in substance abuse, it is hard to change it, and it has to be specific. And that's why talking about your problems don't usually change anything,
right?
Because it's not directed at where this is coming from. Because we know now that your brain's addicted to getting you rejected. So we have to look at different areas of your life and how you set things up through routine, finances, your internal thoughts, attachments, communications. Once we understand it all, it's just like having a roadmap. It can no longer break through.
Right.
So this is a timeline. This is the source belief spectrum. Now, you are more to the right, okay?
Uh-huh.
So when someone's on the right, we're going to see their situational awareness is down a little bit, meaning you're more relationally aware, right? So you could care a little bit more what people think, or your brain looks to reading others and relating that to how they feel about you or what that means. We can see self-trust go up and down. You're more likely to get codependent in relationships. You're actually more likely to experience like PTSD and relive the past, right? Because that's an easy way to get sucked into this, right? Because we can't change the past, but if your brain can always have a certain feeling about it and pull you into it, that can actually relate to shame and rejection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're going to see work or career can be more tense or chaotic, might be really hard to find purpose and then know what to do, and then fixate a little bit on more what people think. So what I see for you is your rejection control receive love and probably safety too. It depends. Or would you say you're a big risk taker?
I mean, I addicted to gambling, and I mean, yeah, but not adrenaline risks, like money
Yeah.
risks, those kind of risks, but not like adrenaline risks.
Yeah, so I think there's an element of safety because it seems just from your childhood, when someone like is worried about more safety and they can still have addiction, but if you're more controlled in those things and not really seeking adrenaline, usually there's an element of safety in there too, where they're not massive risk takers.
Right.
Right. Whereas like someone that's further to the right is going to be more adventurous, more doesn't really care about safety as much, especially when they're younger. That was more like me, but you have a little bit more of that control. And if you think of like more of like fearful outcomes or like what could happen, that's going to show us that you have that built into your pattern as well too. And we have people pleasing, right? So you're going to keep things in, really not speak your mind sometimes, build up, but that's how your pattern weaponizes things till it gets to a place where it allows it to self-sabotage, usually through addiction.
Yeah.
Are these things making sense?
Yes, totally.
Right? Do you see it? Like, you don't want to do these things, but your brain is addicted to it.
Yeah, and in all my relationships I struggle in every relationship across the board, friends, relationships, yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to be So when someone's on the right of the spectrum, it's always going to be relational based, right?
Okay.
The relationships are where they're going to struggle.
Yes, sir.
And because think of it, your brain is looking to that as safety, and it's like how you're being perceived. So when someone's on the right, their brain actually is addicted, and it feels like no matter what, it won't be perceived the right way. So it's constantly, that's why people are going to set this in motion all the time. So, how the pattern plays out is a 1+ chaos, meaning your control mechanisms are pretty chaotic. So this is what we would look to first for you. So you go with the flow until something changes in your environment, right? All of a sudden there's other people involved, right?
Yeah.
Or someone changes plans. Then it's going to cause you to think a certain way. And what happens is you're initially in fear. So, dominoes falling, right? As soon as one falls, then the rest fall. If we're able to understand how your brain's reacting to things in these fear states, this is when you can dismantle them the easiest, right? So
Right.
For me, it would be something like I would come home and then all of a sudden the house was an issue for me, meaning it was dirty and I was upset about it, and maybe I would get mad at my, whoever I was in the relationship at the time. Now, 3 days earlier, the house wasn't bothering me. So why is the house now bothering me? It shows me something's up, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean it shouldn't. Nothing's really changed, but my brain is highlighting something and it's controlling to receive love. So it's like, if I clean this house, that's my issue. So see, your brain will focus on things and it'll make you believe like that's the issue, but it's actually something else that's happened.
So it's like an
Right.
underlying issue, but you're hyper focused on this one issue.
right? Because it wants to distract you or project onto the reason why this is the problem, this is the problem.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
Because
you
I have to
react
be
to
able to
that.
identify the problem all the time. You know, I look to
Yeah.
I look to find a reason to identify, to be able to quickly and easily identify the problem, so I can try to fix it. But it doesn't oftentimes
Yes.
fix it; exacerbates it most of the time.
Well, that's what the pattern's trying to do, right?
Yeah.
You see that, you understand it right there.
Yeah.
Because it's going to feel like this is how I fix it, but then if it doesn't get fixed, that means that maybe there's something going on, or that it's directing you in a place that's actually not going to be beneficial.
And then
Right.
because it exacerbates it, I feel like a failure internally, because I tried to fix it and I'm still failing at trying to fix what I
Right.
think is a problem. You know.
Well, that's the people pleasing.
Yeah.
Right? You have that, we call it over attachment. So your brain linked to, if I can please mom and dad, do whatever it is, then I will be loved.
Right.
But that's a setup, because that you can never uphold those standards, and you're always going to fail in some regard, depending on what's going on. Right? Because essentially you're outsourcing your love, right? Based on validation, or if you can figure it out. And who cares? Maybe you are doing the right thing, but that person just can't receive it, or they're in their own mental state. But this is how, remember, so it's manipulative. It sets us up. So we're going to look at this control, right? So it's like, oh, I need to control something. I need to fix this. I need to help. And then you go to that over attachment, get really excited about something, desire check-ins in relationships, look for feedback in childhood, wanting to please. So we have to, like, even when you're about to do that, we'd have to say, like, hey, my brain's wanting me to focus on this to be the issue and do this right now.
No.
Is this a setup? Is it trying to get me to go all in and then feel like a failure later on? It's like you have to take that pause and start to understand that, right? Because what will happen is your next emotion is anxiety. So your anxiety is when this is your protective emotion, and what we see here is this is where you're going to have more avoidance. So whenever you're avoiding things or not, now you're not quick to jump in relationships just because of the history.
Right.
So now you see your brain pattern feels like it's like you're more avoidant because I know what happens, but it goes to the opposite side. So then you're just going to be more avoidant in general, right? Because instead of, we want to be somewhere in the middle with this, like understand, okay, when it is good to kind of push into a relationship, but now it's going to want to, like, even I can tell you're like easily distracted, right? Like it'll cause us not to be able to focus as well, have to do something, like smoke a cigarette or do something. It's like, it's going to want to take you away from like the present moment and what you need to be focusing on.
Right.
You see how the brain is so distractible like that? That's what it would have done in childhood to constantly try and keep you safe, right? To maybe deflect what was going on around you.
Yeah.
And as an adult, it turns into all these other things, but they can be corrected, right? But that's how the brain's starting this off. So it's going to feel like, oh, what happened? What did I do? It's going to feel very scattered sometimes, the things that we're doing. But when we start to notice how, we can change it. Because in anxiety, we'll have that you have your communication style is very underactive to begin with. That's that people pleasing, right? So there's many ways you hold things in, right? Placate, people please, not express your boundaries. But internally, guess what? That's getting built up inside.
It is. And then I blow, and then I have no friends left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, wow. And a lot of times people may not have known that was really bothering you, or that was a problem, or you were that frustrated about it. But then when you come off, it's going to take them out of left field. Like, wow, I didn't, like, that's wild. Like, I've never seen this side of you. And it catches them off guard. And it doesn't mean what they were doing was right or wrong. It just means that if you were able to communicate it earlier on, there's a way that you could have worked through it.
Right.
Maybe not, but at least there would have been a chance.
Right.
But what the pattern wants to do is not communicate it, keep it in, and then when it does get to that breaking point, it's not fixed at that point. Then that's when you really do something, say something, lash out, and then what happens? Relationship severed.
Yep.
So what happens? You got your rejection again. So do you see, like, even though you don't want to do those things, and it's going to feel like, oh, don't speak about it, just keep it in, don't worry about it, just people please, I don't want to speak my mind. It's a setup. That's what the pattern wants, because then you move to your anger, which is at the end, right here, and it's going to articulate the boundaries aggressively, right? Focus on fairness or justice. Say things impulsively that you later regret. And even sometimes it can feel like you're trying to help, but it's perceived as anger.
Mm-hmm.
Now this system, right, we're just talking about, we know this is happening. So the thing about break method is we have a way to show you this and catch it before, because by the time you're actually angry, it's too late, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
When you've said that, you
logic
can't take
goes
it
right
back
out the
once you've
window
said this.
now, and I don't have any logic left.
But there's many ways to stop it before you get to that place.
Right.
right? But the brain won't want to look at that or won't want to do that thing or communicate that earlier. And that's why when you have a plan in place and you know exactly how this is operating, you just have to do what we say, right? Like for me, it would be, I have a stepson, and when I first got involved with his mother, my wife, my brain would want to push him away. It would want to, just like your childhood where, it felt like your father was, cared more about the other kids than you, right? My brain wanted to do that as well too, because it wanted to actually push him away so I could confirm he would never be close with me, and I would get my rejection, right? So of course it didn't seem like that, but what would happen? My mind would hyper focus on him. It would find a reason to not like him, and then I would get angry at him, and of course, what would end up happening? So in break, I realized as soon as I started to hyper focus on him, that's my indicator. My brain's, but it felt real. It felt like I didn't like him, but I had to do the opposite. I had to go play soccer with him, go to ice cream. And then when I opposed my pattern, it was hard for a minute, and then boom, it drops. My shoulders drop. All of a sudden we're laughing together. I realized 5 minutes ago, I was an actual crazy person, and my brain really felt like I did not like him. And that wasn't real, right? But you see, what would have happened before break, I would have never actually opposed it that way. I would have just isolated myself and been like, yeah. And eventually it would have got worse and worse and worse until, he gets a pattern like you have now, right? Where he feels like his stepdad hates him and it was unfair and he's always going to be rejected.
And I say things when I'm in that pattern of like, oh, I really don't like you, because at the moment I really feel like I don't like you, and then I say things that are hurtful and mean and ugly and like I hate you, and then later on when I'm over it, then I'm like, well, you should be over it too. You know what I mean?
But you see, we're on different timelines. It's like, but they're not over it because you already said the things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you can't take them back. Yeah.
But that's how real it is. So now when we talk about bipolar, split, manic, so people will label them as a mental disorder, but it's just different parts of the brain pattern depending on what pattern you have, right? Because when you're in a different part of the brain pattern, you actually physically feel that, right? It's like you, in that moment, if you took a lie detector test, you would hate that person, and that wouldn't be a lie.
Right.
And if you took a lie detector test 3 hours later, you would not hate that person, and that would not be a lie, right? It's actually real. But the part is that when you're the angry person, that's not actually you. But chemically and emotionally, you embody that. So it comes out and it's real, and you do damage that you can't take back, and then that's what the pattern wants. But when you're able to understand that and catch it early on, you stay regulated, right? When you're regulated, you never get emotional and you're free. But that's the problem. The pattern, if you're regulated and you're always, communicating appropriately and know what to do when, and you don't allow thoughts to take over you, how are you supposed to get these hits of rejection? Very hard, right? Because now you're not doing anything that's going to feed into that. So the brain's like, that's not safe. This is not what we realized from childhood. We need to get you back here. So if things are going too well for too long, or they might be like, let's go casino for a little bit, right? So it's going to want to destabilize what's happening. So, I don't know. I preach this stuff so much, but like, there is a way to rewire this. And I know you've been dealing with this since a young child, and it is the struggle bus, right? It's so hard. It's exhausting. You know what I always tell people? I say, I wouldn't wish what I was dealing with internally on my worst enemy.
Me either.
Because it's like torture, but you can't really explain it to people.
No, I can't. And my partner's determined to misunderstand me, I feel like sometimes,
Well, get this. They're seeing life through their own brain pattern, right? So he's seeing it through blue, you're seeing it through red, so he really cannot understand why you're acting that way, and vice versa. It's like, why can't you understand me? Again, because you were both in distorted realities, right? Based on this. It's like your default settings of your iPhone. It's just, they are what they are until you're able to rewire them. So, at the end, what we see when a major blow up has happened and you're like, I can't change this, it feels hopeless. So if you ever feel hopeless and it'll never change, you'll drop into a depression, right?
That's where
this is where we can, and I could understand completely with everything that's happened, because it's going to be like, it's going to weaponize all that stuff.
Yes.
But just know, everything that has happened to you isn't actually you, right? All the negative parts, all the self-sabotage, all the addiction, that is strictly from your brain pattern, and it's not truly who you are as like an individual, right? Of a person, right? You're capable of amazing things, right? You were put here for a purpose, And this pattern's the only thing that's been holding you back.
Right.
And if you can rewire that, 6 months can look like 6 years of momentum. Because when you're constantly going like this and not self-sabotaging your life, things can change around rapidly, right? But I have doubt you've ever been able to sustain momentum for a sustained amount of time.
No, I go real hard and then I get burned out real easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to go like this. That's that 4+. It's like control. I'm doing this. I'm white knuckling it to get my life, my shit together. That doesn't work either, right? We can't white knuckle it because your pattern will eventually burn you out like that.
And if I don't get the validation from others, from external sources, like you're doing a great job, like cheering me along, that's another reason why I lose momentum. You know what I mean? Because I seek validation from like, I'm proud of you, good job. And if they disappoint me with that, then I just go immediately into self-sabotage.
Exactly, that's the 4-.
Yeah.
Right. So the 4+ is pushing, trying to people please, looking, and if it feels like you're not going to get the validation, or it's just like, well, fuck you then, right? I'm going to self-sabotage my life to get the rejection.
Right.
Right. Because it's like, if you're not giving it to me, I guess I am not enough. I guess I'm not good enough here. See, but you're determining that. But really, it's like maybe just that type of person he's a different kind of boss. He doesn't give validation, or, they thought you're doing pretty good, but they just didn't mention it because you are doing a good job. They're like, I don't need to say anything here. She's just doing great. Right? Because some people only will give feedback when you're doing things
bad.
Wrong.
Right, yeah.
But to ours pattern, it's like, I must be doing something wrong. And then what we'll do, we will mess up on purpose to then get their attention.
Right.
Right?
Because some attention's better than no attention, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And think of that as a child as well, too, right? It's like, well, why is that child doing that? Needy. It's because they're looking for attention.
Right.
They're looking for love. They can't determine good or bad. They just need attention. And it doesn't change when we become an adult. Of course, logically we think through it differently, but it's still that driver, right? Subconscious driver.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can be aware of that, you can be like, okay, it's been 3 days. I haven't necessarily got this feedback. I know that I'm giving 100%. This is my work. It's good. My brain wants me to sabotage this. That is not real. I'm not going to do anything for the next day. I'm just going to, and then you can even communicate that. Like, hey, I'm someone that, I know this is silly, but I would really like to know, am I doing all right here? Because my brain, if I don't get feedback, it tends to want to sabotage. And I respect this company. I respect you. Can we just kind of go over this again? Just let me know if there's any places, because I want to be a good employee. So like when we communicate it that way, of course the person will be like, hey, the reason I didn't say anything is because you are doing excellent, right? I can trust you. Like, this is awesome. And then we still get the feedback, but it's not in a way that, it's like we're attention seeking, but we're just explaining ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's looking for a way of like, I care about this place. I want to do a good job. Can you help me if there's any other way I can get better? I'm like, no, you're doing great. Like, oh, okay, good. And then just recognizing, like, if you want to self-sabotage, is this real, or is this my brain wanting to mess up my life because it feels like I haven't been given validation, which really, that is control to receive love. Your brain looks to control things like validation, feedback, to make sure you're enough. And that in reality, it has nothing to do with if you're enough. You are enough, right? Nothing, no one is going to fill that cup because you are already enough. Right. There's nothing you can do more or less. You're enough when you were born, right? It's just, everything else is just a perception if we're good enough or not.
Right.
And when you can start to wrap your mind around that, you can realize, like, I am enough. I'm an amazing person, right? If internally you think you're a good person, you're helping others, and you're doing what is necessary, you don't need feedback. But again, the brain is addicted to it, so you got to be easy on yourself, right? It's looking for this. So, these couple things with the pattern here is may struggle with allowing situations to unfold without desiring to control them. Fixate on assuming what others are thinking or feedback. You could assume others will critique or judge your approach or perspective, leading you to prepare a defense. Right? Always feel like someone's going to think something about what you're doing, or think it's not good enough, or just always like on the defense. Projecting internal emotional state onto others. So this is going to be a big one for you, right? Seeing people and even your partner and like determining what they're thinking. Now, we don't know for sure. You may have seen that eye roll 1,000 times and you know what that means, but you don't truly know what that means. And the assumption, what happens is then we conclude what that means and we react to it. So when we react to it, like based on, I bet they're thinking this, and then our body language changes, then they start to activate their pattern. Do you see how it's just like this ping pong match?
Yeah, I get
you
it.
just go back and forth. So that's number one with so many things, because nothing can actually change if we're always in assumptions. It's going to default back into it. This is big for you. Can experience conflict about not being seen or experienced by others the way you want. And there's a bunch of other stuff in there, but I'm not going to bore you with that. You can read it on your own time. So the entire pattern maps. So really, get everything aside. To rewire this, you have to go through break method. And there's a very specific way we do it. It takes 4 months, right? So what's 4 months in the grand scheme of things? The difference with us, and I did this, and this is why I do what I do now, is because this is what worked for me. I, couldn't have longer than a 6-month relationship before break. Suicidal ideation, on SSRIs multiple times, all that stuff. With break, we test it. We try to prove everything I said here wrong. So you're going to have 6 calls. You're going to go through about 30 different videos, and you're going to have about a dozen other calls with another support specialist. By the end, you know exactly what's happening inside your head, right? There is no guesswork. And then you have word for word questions built out. And when you say those to yourself and implement them at the right time, it'll cause your brain to stop in a way, meaning it will not take the next step. You'll call it out. Just like me, like I said with my stepson. It's like, am I hyperfixating on Zev? Yes. Is this because my brain's telling me I don't like him? Yes. Is it because I'm actually scared that if I start to show up for him, he's going to always think his other dad is better and I'm going to get rejected? Yes. If I stay like this, am I actually going to destroy my life and my wife and yes. You have to do this right now. So it's like you go through this step sequence that it backs you into a corner and you realize, I have to oppose this, and you know what to do. And when you oppose the pattern, you get the opposite, meaning momentum, clarity, peace, right? Things start working out. Your relationships gets better. There's metrics for success. So you're like, shit, this works. And then what happens? By the end, you got this, but you have to do a 30-day rewire at the end, which is for 30 days, you go through your final strategy. And when you hit it every single time, it actually rewires the brain, which is, called the neuroplasticity rewires. But it is true. But it's just like anything. To form a new habit and to rewire these, it takes consistency and it takes accuracy, because you've been doing this since you've been 5 years old.
Right.
So to think that there's like one magic pill or like one thing I can say that's going to change this, nope. But what I can tell you is, if you're serious about this and it's something that you end up doing, it's not going to be easy the whole time. That's for damn sure. But what it will do is change your life, right? It is the best chance to rewire this pattern, because other than that, I have never seen anything else that really works, right? People will say things work, or, I had this experience on ayahuasca or, talk therapy. I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I really am interested. Just right now, like, I'm doing IOP from home, which is like intensive outpatient for substance abuse, because I failed a UA for probation. So I'm looking at prison time right now. So after I'm done with my IOP, I'm hoping the judge reinstates me back on probation, but I may have to go to prison. So it would be counterproductive for me to try to do something right now when I can't actually commit to finishing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's my position.
I understand.
Yeah, so, but for sure when I get back from that, and I probably move back before Christmas because I already have back time. So, but definitely when I get back, I'm definitely going to look into this for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, it's all about timing too, and we're not going anywhere, right? Yeah. And there's actually, so this program is fairly expensive, but in a week there's an online version coming out that's like a quarter of the price, and that is the place to start. And one of those things, it's like, I think it's going to be like $700 compared to $3,000. So
yeah,
that's probably where you want to start.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah, and I love the online stuff, so yeah, that will work.
And you can do it anytime.
Okay, great. Well, if you could send me the information, then I'll have it in my emails or whatever, and then I can look into it when I get back. I should be back before the end of the year, though.
Yeah, I will. I'll email this to you, and then I'll text you my number too. So just save it in your phone so you can text me if you have any
all right.
additional questions later on.
I appreciate it, and you explained me to the T, so I really appreciate that. It really helped a lot.
Great. Do you have any questions about anything?
I don't, but thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. You don't understand what it means to me. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All
right.
You too. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.